Showtime Shawn Porter is with us.
I know. What up, Shawn?
That.
I was like, is that Tim Couch?
It is Tim Couch, yeah.
You guys got some great guests. I'm not talking about me. Tim is he wasn't that successful with the Browns, but he's still kind of a legend for Browns fans.
Absolutely.
Somehow, some way. Like, he's kind of in our hearts, you know?
Shawn, I think he took more hits than you took in the boxing ring, man. He got the crap beat out of him.
That's possible.
Shawn, there's a lot to get to. First of all, we were just showing the video of, I don't know if you saw it there, but Myles Garrett dunking. Like, Myles Garrett is this absurd freak athlete, and he's getting way above the rim on those dunks. I mean, it's like crazy. What is your best sport? And there's Myles Garrett. I mean, that's just ridiculous. The guy is like a 280-pound defensive lineman.
We do my podcast, the Porterweight podcast. We do it at the Win, and he walked by the studio like 2 or 3 times, and we said what's up and all that kind of stuff. Weren't able to get him in, but I had the thought, like, what's he doing here during summer league? Is he just here vacationing? No, my dude is out there trying to play some NBA basketball, and there's no secret that Myles Garrett is one of the best athletes in the NFL right now, and I think he displayed his NBA talent or basketball talent during the NBA All-Star game, and then you've seen it now. He's basically like, put me in with these guys. I don't know if I can run with the big guys, but I can definitely run with these guys. For me, it was football. I grew up playing football and boxing, and then I'm an overall athlete as well. So I picked up a basketball late, and I hold true to my heart. If I had picked up a basketball any sooner than high school, I might have played a different sport as a professional athlete. So, but yeah, for Myles, there's no telling what he can do on the NBA court.
Well, I'll tell you what. When you talk about like football and obviously you being a world-class boxer, I think the level between a regular civilian and a boxer is the highest level in the world. Like, some guys you walking down the street can play basketball. Some guys that play football in high school. But when you talk about putting them gloves on, like, y'all can't even listen. I'm telling you, y'all can't even touch regular people.
Oh my God!
Like, you
got to see it in person as a fan to know how scary it is.
And like, I'm telling you, like, people say, hey, if you hit me, I'm suing everybody. Like, I'm suing you. I'm suing the hospital.
Here's the interesting thing, and I know that this is primarily why I'm on today. Everybody is gravitating towards boxing. Anybody who wants to challenge themselves and see how much skill, heart, talent, endurance, and the list goes on, just natural ability, everybody's going to boxing now to really challenge themselves. And I think that it's a really interesting thing, because you take a look at boxing, and here in the United States, it's on the lower level in terms of stardom, star appeal. It's not a highlighted sport here in the United States. However, all of the NFL players now, NBA players I've seen, and wrestlers, everybody wants to challenge themselves, and everybody's going to the sport of boxing to do that. I think it's interesting.
So, Shawn, we got to get to this. So, Le'Veon Bell is fighting Adrian Peterson. We've seen a lot of, like, as you mentioned, other sports athletes coming in and now boxing. So they're fighting at the end of this month. I think we were discussing this last week, and I said I'll take Adrian Peterson. I think you said AP too. I took
Le'Veon Bell because he was younger.
Because he was younger. What do you make of that, Shawn? Who are you taking in that fight? What do you think?
Who am I taking? That's a great question. My heart actually wants to take Adrian Peterson. When I was in high school, he was like the top running back, and watching him get drafted to the NFL, had the injury and still do everything that he did as an NFL football player. I mean, one of the hardest runners to date. And you say all that, and my admiration for him as a football player, I was like, you got to pull for AP. However, I had an opportunity to go and watch Le'Veon Bell train just last weekend, and I watched him do some shadow boxing. I watched him hit the bag. I gave him some tips while he was hitting the bag. But I'm saying all that to say this. The key thing for me, I asked Le'Veon, I said, how long you been training? He said, I always trained in the offseason. I use boxing to stay in shape for football. I said, well, how long you been thinking about boxing? Because it looks like he's a little bit more advanced than somebody that just picked it up. I said, how long you been thinking about boxing? He says, this has always been my game plan. Just nobody ever knew about it. And so I'm saying that to say Le'Veon's got some experience. He's put himself in the realm of boxing, the boxing world, even though it wasn't in an actual fight, but he's been in professional boxing gyms. He's been in amateur boxing gyms, and he's been getting a lot of experience for a very long time. And for me, it's always hard to count out experience because I know that when you have experience, there's things that are going to happen in the ring. And if you don't have any experience, you don't know how to handle it, you know? So I think it's an interesting matchup. I think physicality-wise, we lean towards Adrian Peterson, but boxing is just not about who's the most physical. So I feel kind of inclined to lean towards Le'Veon Bell.
So Shawn, last week we all came up with 4 different athlete boxing matches we'd like to see. And we're going to take our what we think are our 2 best from each one, and then we want your opinions on it. I had Trevor Bauer fighting a grizzly bear. We took that one out because I just want to see Trevor Bauer eaten by a grizzly bear. But let's start with Brad. Brad, what are your 2 best?
So, Shawn, I started out, I did Myles Garrett versus Lawrence Taylor.
Oof.
Ooh.
In their primes.
In their primes.
Oh, Lord. Oh, man.
That's
that.
tough.
Oh, wow. Man,
And I'm talking about LT when he was just that nasty dude, right?
I would take LT. I think LT was a little more agile, a little more athletic. And, of course, we know the mean streak that both guys have. We are definitely got to give respect to our own defensive end. But I just feel like it's always hard for me to go up against the OGs in any respect. I don't think that I hold a candle to any old school 147-pound fighter out there, junior middleweight. And I would say the same for those football players right there. It's hard for those guys to compete with the old heads.
Well, I'm gonna give you a second since we going Cleveland.
LT.
We all from
Here we
Cleveland
go.
here. Let's talk this Cleveland, right? We're gonna go real OG here. Charles Oakley versus Xavier McDaniel.
Oof, that's
Of course, I'm familiar with Oakley. We're talking about mean streaks again. I'm not as familiar with McDaniel, so I would have to go with the hometown anyway. So.
Well, you know, Shawn, they actually had a fight. I'm friends of both. I was teammates of both. And they actually had a fight in the Garden. They cleared out the first row of the Garden. And this thing is still legendary. And when I tell you, when I ran up on it, Shawn, all I could, trying to break up 2 friends, right? All I hear was body shots being thrown, and it just went like this.
They knew what they were doing.
Yeah, they knew exactly what they were doing.
not like the guys
You
now.
never see anybody go to the body in a street fight, so that might be an interesting fight to have seen once upon a time. Wow.
All right, Jason, you're up.
All right, Shawn. So I may have misunderstood the assignment a little bit.
No, Jason, you nailed it. Before we even tell you, Jason nailed this for the record.
All right. So my first one was Myles Garrett versus Tyson Fury because those are 2 of the baddest men I know. And if Myles can just protect himself long enough to get one good punch in, I think it's all he needs is one good shot.
Yeah. You know what? With some training, I have no doubt that Myles Garrett can box with some training. One thing that would hold him back, and historically, fighters never lifted weights, and they always said it made you slow. It's not that it made you slow. When you put on muscle, it for a boxer, you gotta be loose. Yeah. And when you put on muscle, it stops you from being as loose as you can be. That's the only thing that would make me say that Myles can beat Tyson Fury is the fact that I know that the man has lifted weights for so long, and even though he's so big and so strong, I don't know if he could get loose enough to get at Tyson Fury. But if my man wanted to come to the boxing world, I would not knock him for taking on Tyson Fury. I think that's something that would shock the world, and he could actually do it. I do believe that.
All right, the second one is sheerly for my own entertainment. Nick Chubb against Spirit Airlines CEO Edward Christie because I had to fly Spirit Airlines home from Vegas the other night, and it was like sitting with barn animals. Spirit Airlines, we're about to lose Spirit as a sponsor.
Yeah.
Because Spirit Airlines is like putting a Goodwill store in a slingshot, pulling it back as far as it'll go, and letting go, and seeing how far it will make it. It was an awful experience. People were taking off their socks and their shoes before we even got on the plane. At the gate, they're sitting barefoot. I'm like, where am I right now? It was an awful experience. It was horrible. I was forced into it by my other employer.
Sure, it
because
wasn't a Trump rally.
Watch it.
I'm kidding.
So I would like to watch this fight from an ivory tower like Commodus from Gladiator and just point down and go, finish him!
I said, what? At the risk of also losing a Spirit Airlines deal, I think all of our purposes as flyers is to avoid flying Spirit Airlines.
That's
so right. That was your fault for being
Agreed.
on that flight, sir.
It was forced on me by my employer. It was the only flight that would fit within company policy.
Grab that black
it was
card,
awful.
use another airline.
Man.
Next time I'll drive.
You're up.
Hey, man, listen. First of all, we got to get to this one. This is the easy money right here. Myles Garrett versus Mason Rudolph.
Why is everybody Myles Garrett? Why is it just Cleveland or?
But because but see, here's the thing. The assignment was we had to pick somebody from the Browns, right? Or Cleveland sports. So you're like, okay, well, I can't pick any baseball players, and everybody on the Cavs are really nice.
Yeah.
And so,
I got one by the way.
I bet you got one.
And they're gonna get. I'm supposed to have another one here. We already know Myles Garrett wins that one. But
Yeah, that one's not fair.
That ain't fair. That's not fair.
Let's take G. We got your other Browns one because we thought this was the actual cleanest, most fair fight.
This right here, this got slugfest written all over.
I think Nick Chubb knocks his ass out in less than a minute.
His work.
The Tasmanian Devil ain't playing with you. He puts work in out here now.
It's true, he does.
Like, he ain't playing games with nobody.
I always tell people who you are outside of the ring is who you are in the ring. And I think it goes the same for any sport. Who you are on the basketball court is who you are off the court. Usually the guys that dribble a lot and have those fancy passes, they're usually the clean dressed and the swagged out, all those kinds of things. In the ring, I believe that Nick Chubb would be very orthodox. He'd be very 1-2. He'd be very orthodox. Kareem Hunt would be a little all over the place. He'd be fainting a lot. He'll be trying to do all these things, and he catch one. I love both those guys as Browns running backs. It hurts me to pick one, but I actually would pick Nick Chubb because I think that he's strong. I think he could protect himself, and I think he'd handle himself in the ring. One more thing, they always say, watch out for the quiet ones. And when we talk about the quiet ones, there again, Nick Chubb is the dangerous one in that match.
You know what, Sean? Listen, before we go, I'm gonna swing at the bull, but let's not act like we don't be on here promoting. I got one more wild card. I want Shawn Porter versus Jake Paul. I need to get you that bag, my man. Come on now. Yeah, listen. Come on down here and get you that bag. Listen, Amazon, put it on Prime. Get that together. Listen,
no. We put it on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show.
Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. This thing right here could be big, man. Tell us going into it. Let me ask you a question. Can Jake Paul really, like, this ain't no play? You really got hands. Like, I feel like, can you tell them that he can't mess with you pound for pound with them hands? He get hurt out here, bro. Talk to me.
So here, let me do this real quick. For any boxing fans out there, when you watched Floyd Mayweather fight, Floyd did what's called picking his matches. He always announced who he was fighting. There was never an announcement, Floyd Mayweather's fighting so-and-so. It was always Floyd, I'm getting in the ring with. He picked his matches. And because he knew how to work the business. And that's exactly what Jake Paul is doing. He's working the business of boxing, he's picking his matches, and he's doing a phenomenal job doing it. It kind of is what it is. Now he's got Hasim Rahman Jr., who is 12-1 as a professional boxer. But again, Jake Paul is smart. He knows I picked a boxer that really can't do much with me outside of 4 to 5 rounds. And so I think that is going to be a really good boxing match, but I think that Jake Paul, again, has picked a match that he knows he's going to win. If Jake Paul picks Showtime Shawn Porter, would not be the same deal. Jake is too slow. Jake does not have enough experience. Jake isn't strong enough. Jake is not athletic enough, agile enough. There's nothing that Jake Paul can do with Showtime Shawn Porter, which is why you won't see Shawn Porter come get that bag. I don't need that bag.
That's what I'm talking about. You heard it here first.
But hey, I got one for y'all.
Yeah.
Denzel Ward, one of the best defensive backs in the league, against Steph Curry, one of the greatest offensive weapons in the NBA. Who wins?
I'm saying Denzel Ward.
Denzel takes him. Yeah.
Yeah.
You would know better than us.
He sound like Steph.
You think Steph might win?
Curry.
CompuBox, Steph is a sniper. I trust his eye. CompuBox gonna love him. He gonna hit his spots. He gonna be real precise. And when it come down to the card, when it come down to the tape, I got my man Steph Curry.
But can the guards take a blow? Can the guards take a blow? You saw Nate Robinson, who was laid out in that boxing match on the canvas, and Steph Curry tweeted right afterward, because Nate Robinson had sent out a thing on top. I'm gonna shock the world, right? That was leading up to the fight. And then when he got knocked out, Steph Curry came back and tweeted immediately out to the public, "I see no lies."
I don't know if Steph can keep a mouth guard in his mouth long enough.
I see no lies.
to go for a full fight.
All right, Sean, I got two more for you. Let's get to my two here. Again, we got Nick Chubb in the mix. But I wanted a good running back against a good – we got the baseball one first. Two of the biggest behemoths in Major League Baseball, Aaron Judge and Franmil Reyes. Who you got in that one?
Reyes has been hitting his butt off, man.
He's finally hitting the ball.
He's doing a good job with the Guardians, but I think I would have to go with the MLB player, man. It's something about him. He looks very athletic.
Yeah.
He can hit. No secret that he can hit. So I have to go against Cleveland on this.
By the way, real quick, speaking of big guys, the first time I ever saw boxing in person as a fan was at the Turning Stone Casino outside of Utica, New York. Have you ever fought there, Sean, by any chance?
Been there. The Hall of Fame is up there.
Okay, that's right. In Canastota, I believe, right? Canastota?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I went there. It was a heavyweight match, and this is probably 15 years ago. I can't remember the fighters. They were not great heavyweights. And one guy had been a decent fighter, and he was kind of on the back end, and the other guy was like these were lower level heavyweight fighters, but they were experienced, but not great fighters.
Yeah.
And watching those two guys in person, because I was sitting like first row.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, because watching it on TV is one thing. Mm-hmm. But seeing that in person, and I'm like, these are lower level guys. I can't imagine what the star fighters. Watching it, it looked like every punch they were getting hit with a sledgehammer. And I know they're heavyweights, but just so kudos to you, because unless you watch it, obviously I've never been in the ring and I would get my ass kicked. But just watching it that close, my respect for boxers went up like 1,000,000 times, because I'm like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
It's unreal.
I have a friend that attended I have a friend that attended West Point, and I don't know if people know, but boxing is a part of the curriculum. Your first 2 years at West Point is mandatory to take boxing as a class, and that was made mandatory by Teddy Roosevelt way back in the day.
Right.
And that it's still a part of the curriculum. I have a friend who actually boxed. He fought on some world teams and all of those types of things. He turned professional, but he went to West Point. Prior to West Point, he hadn't boxed at all. He said his first time sparring, he was convinced that boxing was fake. He said there was no. He said he couldn't believe there was any way anybody could do 12 rounds, 3 minutes as hard as he had seen. And then, of course, after getting into it and doing it more, he became a professional boxer himself. But it's just one of those things, man. For me, I used track work. I actually used agility drills from football. I played basketball to kind of get in shape. We would run the lines and things of that nature. I swam. biking, running on paths. Boxing is the only sport that you use every other sport just to get ready for one night. And there's no other sport like it, man. And I know that there is an underappreciation for boxing. And I just think that the right parts of boxing have not been exposed enough to the average fan to know, for them to actually have a true understanding of what boxing is.
No doubt. I'm going to blow off my second matchup because I want to ask you about something else too. Like when I was a kid, boxing was, baseball was always my favorite sport as a kid, but boxing was like right there. It was like, I would watch when Mike Tyson was fighting. I mean, every pay-per-view was must watch. I mean, he was just killing guys in the ring until Buster Douglas, and then we were like, what? Nobody even heard of Buster Douglas. I know he's from this area, but like nobody heard of him when he got in the ring with Tyson. We just thought Tyson would kill him like he killed everybody else. But I'm curious because like when I was a kid, and even before that, obviously the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, even the 90s, the heavyweight division was where it was at, right? I mean, like that, there was so many, and it feels like, and I'm not as into boxing as I was. I still pay attention, but I don't love it like I did when I was younger. And I think for me, part of it is because the heavyweight division doesn't seem like it's as good. Is it really not as good, or am I just not giving it enough credit, or they're not like American heavyweights that are really good? What do you make of the heavyweight division?
The heavyweight division carries boxing. While I was very good, and there's tons of guys that are very good at 147, 135, 130. I mean, there's a lot of divisions out there who have multiple guys that are either champions or on the verge of being a champion. But everybody understands the heavyweight division. I actually blame Rocky for that. I think that Rocky made boxing what it was, and it became a thing. If you don't see a big man in the ring, this isn't the boxing that I know, because people kind of grew accustomed to it. I believe, large in part because of Rocky. But excluding that, and just to your point, I think right now boxing in the heavyweight division in America is coming back. There was a long lull of mediocre fighters in the heavyweight division, but that is going away. And number one guy that stands out in my mind is Jared Anderson. He is the next big heavyweight boxer who's going to become a world champion and be a world champion for a very long time. And then I don't know if anybody out there knows Deontay Wilder. He's looking to come back relatively soon as well. He had a trilogy matchup with Tyson Fury that was amazing. You have to, if you want to see great heavyweight boxing right now, you kind of have to look outside of the United States. And nobody here is willing to do that. We're not connected to anyone overseas, So Tyson Fury is the greatest heavyweight of our generation, but I don't think enough people over here in the United States know about him or give him his credit, is because we're not connected to him that way. So the good part about it is the heavyweight division is coming back, and Jared Anderson definitely is leading that charge.
Shawn, great to have you with us as always, man. We'll have you back again before the football season to start hyping up for the Browns. We love the T-shirt. We love having you on. Thank you for joining us.
See you guys later.
All right, thanks, Shawn.
Showtime, Shawn Porter.